from Thailand. We are about to present to you a case called 50 Shades of Supply Chain. Mind you, I haven't watched the movie just like yourself, I'm sure. And this talks about how companies or like multinationals can uphold and uplift the rights of workers in Chinese factories.
And who are we?
We are consultants, and we are talking to a theoretical company that has existing or would like to invest into a facility in China.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for flying so far to be with us. And you may begin. Welcome.
Oh, thank you. So most, if not all of us in this room have been influenced, not by the movie that we just mentioned, but by a phenomenon we call Made in China. Who among us here has an iPhone phone? Who among us here has Nike shoes? Or who among us here drives around a GM car, a Ford car, or those other brands? I expect that almost everyone would have raised their hands. So beyond the benefits that we see from this massive movement in the past 30 years, there are real costs, and in particular, there are costs that are associated with workers that we see in the Chinese factories. In the past 5 years alone, we have seen that there have been numerous incidents and accidents that have cost lives and limbs in China. For instance, there was a case in 2011 wherein the Apple supplier, Foxconn, had an explosion in their plant which killed 3 people. In 2014, there was an explosion in one of the suppliers for hubcaps for GM that killed about 170 people in China. And overall, we saw that in the 2014 alone, there are about 60,000 who were killed because of this very low standards in factories. So the question now is, why is there tremendous pressure on factory workers? And the answer lies in a number of factors. First, with the onset of globalization, there's always a push towards lowering the costs. And ultimately, the worker at the end of the supply chain will always be the biggest victim. If you look at the $100 pair of Nike shoes, and you look at the costing there, about 70% goes into the retail and marketing as a margin. 25% goes into the actual cost of the good. And we estimate that only about $2 to $4 of the $100 goes into the labor costs. And ultimately, if you push down costs, it would be this cost that you would first address. And if you look at it from a macro perspective, as a factory owner, the barriers to entry into establishing a factory in China are very low. There are thousands upon thousands of factories in China supplying the same amounts, the same products, and doing the same things. And ultimately, the biggest power in this industry is actually the companies like yours. The Nikes of this world, the Apples of this world, because they dictate the price, quantity, and quality of the products that come to our shores. So we look at 2 cases. First is Nike, a success case. They were ahead of the curve because in the early 1990s, there were problems with their facilities in China. They addressed these issues actively, and they came up with a number of solutions, one of which was publishing the list of all their contractors. Second was engaging all the stakeholders, including government, NGOs, and other companies. The second, which I mentioned earlier, was GM, which is behind the curve. There was an explosion in their plant which killed hundreds of people, but they were not able to monitor the whole system because there are hundreds of components that goes into a car. So, what is the key insight that we learned in our case? First, the natural reaction of people from negative incidents like this is to come up with more rules. And as the case is in China, there are already sufficient number of rules. All the codes of conduct, whether it be from the private or the public side, is very sufficient and very strong. So where is the problem? The problem lies in aligning the incentives between all the stakeholders. For instance, the factory workers, the factory owners, and the corporations like yours. And second, there's a very lax monitoring system wherein only 25% of companies actually engage the factory workers themselves. So our solution is simple, straightforward, and scalable. Addresses these issues and goes around 3 buckets within the factory and outside the factory. One is a solution of microinsurance, which provides a social safety net and then also an incentive for the factory owners and the factory and the companies to align their interests. And second, we have a simple online survey which moves away from the negative checks or negative audits that we have today. And finally, we will create a one-stop home outside the factories for factory workers.
Okay, I will talk about the first solution, macro insurance scheme. This scheme will be sponsored by the company. So the company will pay 100% of the total premium if the factory owner can be full compliant. But as for the partial compliant and non-compliant, the factory owners will take 20% of the 40% respectively of the total premium. So the scheme will be managed and packaged by the insurance company. The workers will be covered in terms of the medical treatment, accidental injury, and sudden death. So next solution will be online monitoring system, which will be conducted through a survey by the workers. We will ask a question like the 4 areas will be covered. First, compensation. Second, safety. And the third, health. Also, some other questions will be asked. Through the asking questions, the workers will provide some kind of information to the company in terms of issues and their concerns about. Okay, thank you.
Our next solution is the one-stop home. One-stop home is a solution that we're going to build a facility that allow NGOs to helping and working with our migrant workers. We're going to focus on 3 areas. First one, education. Second one, health, and then family. The reason that we choose all these 3 as a priority because nowadays 70% of the migrant workers, they are undereducated, and they have a lot of health concern with a lot of contagious disease, and they have like 61 million children left behind at home, which cause a lot of social problems. So in detail about this, we're gonna focus on the service about education. First one, we're gonna have not only a required skill that we're gonna train them, safety awareness or the assembly skill, but also the additional service like language abilities like English and Mandarin, financial literacy, how to save the money, and how to apply the technology like mobile phone in daily life to their daily life, like using the mobile app and internet. And for health, we're going to provide help promoting our current hotline system that nowadays they are calling back for the hotline for personal life only, but going to put the concern like how is your working condition, how poor it is. And we're going to have a self-checkup questionnaire for them. If you meet all the 3 requirements for this, we suggest them to go to see the doctor at the medical center. And the last one for the family. As many children are left behind, we're gonna implement like a technology like Skype, that free call. They can free call from the center back home. And if the children would like to come along with them, we're gonna have an informal classroom for them. But this one is gonna be at least to provide a basic education for them. And the next one, definitely there's gonna be a course for this, but the most ambitious one is gonna build a one-stop home for building the center. And we're gonna trade off about the social benefit that we're gonna have, which I'm gonna present next related to all the stakeholders. First one, for the factory workers, definitely they're gonna have a better quality of life, better working condition. For the factory, manufacturing plant, and the brand itself, they can save the cost of training the staff, save the cost of high turnover rate, and they have a lot of higher productivities for their workers. And the brand itself, they can create higher brand equity and brand awareness about your brand. And for society in general, definitely happy worker, happy family, and then create like security society, sustainable society. We believe that our solution, our 3 solution, is simple, scalable, and can create a better sustainable growth for the company. Thank you.
time. We'll give you some feedback. Well, thank you, everybody. That was all some very enjoyable presentations. One of the fun things about this particular competition is that everyone brings their own case with them. And so we all get the opportunity to see analyses of different cases. The one thing that separates ethics from other professions is the answer is a lot less obvious